So let's quickly look at matchups. I think we have one of our friends, Naman Agarwal, who is on Twitter at Cover Driven for 4. So he has made some beautiful charts about the matchups. So if I look at the matchups, I think Team Southey and Trent Bolt, both of them has, pretty good success against Indian batsmen. So Adam, what do you think about, Team Southey and Trent Bolts? I don't think it's a surprising at all. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I definitely don't think it's surprising. I think the Duke's cricket ball in both of their hands in this English summer is going to be a sight to see. And look, I think historically, Indian batsmen have struggled a little bit in English conditions. It took Virat Kohli a long time to get going. Had a very, very poor tour, I think, in 2012. I was lucky
14,
enough to be at Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, was it 14? Yeah. So, lucky enough to see him get out at Lords a few times against the England team. So, look, I think that's going to be really, really key. But look, I think the one thing, particularly with Pujara playing a lot of county cricket for Yorkshire, and he's probably taken a lot of that back to that Indian camp and talked about how to construct an innings and bat against that moving ball. So, look, I think it's going to be a fascinating matchup, but I just come back to it. I think the pitch is going to be pretty flat. This is a big money spinner for the ICC. With the rights of this game going all around the world, they will be asking the groundsman at the Ageas Bowl to produce as close to a shirt front as possible. They'll want it to go the full 5 days, and particularly if there's a little bit of weather around as well, they'll want the pitch to be in a position where it lasts into that extra day if there is a bit of weather. So. Look, it's going to be fantastic to see all of these players at the top of their craft, really. And that's the other factor here is you've got two teams that I think to a large extent are both almost at the apex of where they are as cricket sides. You've got that experience from a batting perspective with the likes of Williamson and Ross Taylor in that New Zealand side. The emergence of someone like Henry Nicholls, who doesn't often get mentioned, but has had a fantastic, start and even sort of slightly beyond that in his Test career. And then the same with the Indians as well, that fantastic pace attack that really, really, it doesn't go unnoticed now. We talk about it a hell of a lot with Bumrah and Ishant, and Mohammed Shami, I think, is going to be a fantastic practitioner with that Duke's ball as well. So, look, really, really looking forward to some of those matchups.
Yeah, you mentioned about Kohli. So if I see his matchups against New Zealand bowlers, Team Southey got him 3 times, Jamieson got him 1 time, Bolt got him 3 times, and Wagner got him 3 times. So one surprising thing out of this is he scored decent runs against Trent Bolt and Team Southey, but he couldn't score any runs against Neil Wagner. I think that is going to be key. Neil Wagner versus Virat Kohli is what I'm going to look forward. So Manoj, do you have any thoughts on matchups on India's batting? Whom do you think?
Not really. The players themselves wouldn't be looking at all these matchups, to be honest. At the end of the day, it's down to the match pressure, how who deals with the match pressure well will obviously go on to do well in the match. So I think the New Zealand Quicks would be looking closely at possible weak points of the Indians. For example, Pujara has had problems with the balls coming in, so they would like to exploit that. Or maybe Kohli is vulnerable on the off stump, balls pitched up. These could be the areas where the New Zealand Quicks would target the Indians. So yeah, these things, matchups is one, but then who can handle the match pressure well will do well in the match.
Definitely, Manoj. I think you have rightly pointed out that irrespective of what happened in the past, on the day who is going to perform well is going to come out as winner. So Michael, your thoughts on Ashwin, because Ashwin has been very successful against New Zealand, if not in these conditions, but as a whole, if I see, Ashwin has been the most successful Indian bowler against New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was fantastic in the series against Australia in conditions that weren't particularly favourable. I think if you played the test series, a 10-match series between New Zealand and India, Ravi Ashwin might win you 3 or 4 test matches just by himself. So he's going to be a very, very dangerous character regardless of whether or not it's going to provide turn on day one at the Ageas Bowl. He's going to be one that New Zealand will have to plan for. Williamson and Taylor have obviously been dismissed by Ashwin a lot of times in Test cricket, but they've played a lot of tests against each other. So that's not surprising to me that Ashwin has had some success against New Zealand's best two batsmen. But he's going to be dangerous whoever he's bowling to, and particularly the left-handers, Conway, Santner, and Latham as well. Nichols, all those left-handers he's going to be dangerous to because he takes the ball away from the left-handed batter.
It's quite amazing, isn't it? Like normally, even he has got more left-hand wickets than Muralidharan. Like he has got half the wickets to what Murali has got, and he has got more left-handers than Muralidharan. Like I don't know. I keep mentioning on our podcast as well. It's never-ending love story between left-handers and Ashwin. Adam, you have something to add?
Yeah, look, you guys have certainly done more stats than I have. So, look, I'll be taking a big guess at this, but I think the point that Baldy makes there about those three left-handers, we've not got any matchups for Devon Conway because he's not played against these guys in Test cricket yet. But you've got that New Zealand batting lineup with Latham, with Conway, with Mitchell Santner, with Henry Nichols. So some left-handers in that order. And look, I would argue, and sort of you guys may have the stats to back it up, that Ashwin's obviously played in a DRS era a lot more than Murali did, and certainly with that sort of left-hander matchup piece, that's going to be really, really key. And look, particularly in England, he's very tall. He gets over the top, and I'm sure Lippy, as a former off spinner of some repute here in New Zealand, will probably talk about the technical aspects more, but the ball's not going to be going over the top of the stumps too often in England. So I think if Ashwin can just get the ball to go on with that arm or bowl that carom ball, your DRS is going to come into play. And with those left-handers in that New Zealand lineup, it's going to be really interesting to see the way that they combat his threat.
Yeah, in fact, Ashwin had a very good success against New Zealand, and following him, I think Ishant had a pretty decent success against New Zealand's batting. So your thoughts on that, Stu?
Oh yeah, look, I'll just add. I mean, you guys were talking about the seamers. I agree with. I can't remember who said it, but that Ishant. I know his stats are very good in England, and he's the kind of bowler that feels like he'll be really tricky for us to face because he's got the seam and utilizes that so well. So I think Shami, certainly from a New Zealand perspective, Shami, Bumrah and Ishant are the bowlers we don't want to see. I would love them to play any of the other guys. And, you guys touched on Ashwin. I mean, as an off spinner myself, I've loved watching his career really, throughout. But Binksy made a good point about Devon Conway, and he hasn't really been. He's been so tremendous this New Zealand summer, but he hasn't really been tested against spin. Not through any fault of his own. He just hasn't really had many spinners to play against, and that they don't play a huge role here in New Zealand. And that's probably the same when you think about his first class stuff. I mean, we do have some reasonable spinners in the background that don't really get their opportunities in New Zealand. But it's the same thing. They're not really able to, play a big role in how, I hope Conway obviously bats for long enough that we get to see him challenge Ravi Ashwin, because it'll be a tremendous contest.